Thank you guys all for coming today. I know it is off of a holiday weekend and probably a little bit crazy, so appreciate you all being here. Before we begin, just a disclaimer that I've given every time. I am going to record this session. These materials will be shared with you after today's webinar as well as posted online. And the use of AI tools may be used throughout this webinar series. So just a little heads up for you guys to know there. If you have any questions at all during today's webinar, please feel free to raise your hand or use the chat icon. So quick, getting excited. We only have 40 days until lead. I cannot believe it. The time is flying here, but we are very excited here at AGA National and cannot wait. And then, as always, I like to give a shout out to those areas who are working on those pre-session submissions. So each webinar, I ask for everyone to submit a question or challenge that their chapter is currently facing, so we can use that information to support you throughout this program year and at LEAD. And our top areas for this go round was Area 7, Area 4, and Area 2. So a big shout out to those areas. Thank you for sharing your insights and feedback. That really does help us here at AGA National. All right, so get into it. I just realized I never told you what the session is about. So going backward for a second, this is our second session talking about citizen-centric reports. So if you missed last session, we talked a little bit about what it is, focusing on the understanding and the purpose of the CCRs as well as the structure. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the more of the design aspect and the implementation. So we know that one of the biggest challenges chapters face is design and figuring out where to start. So today we want to have a goal of it's not our intention to turn anyone into a graphic designer, right? We really are just here to help make your CCR feel realistic, readable, and achievable for your chapters. So we'll talk about some design principles, places to find inspiration, and ways to communicate your chapter story clearly without overcomplicating the process. So to start off, I am going to kick it to John to talk about a little bit about the anatomy of the CCR, why they matter, some big myths, just a little review of what a CCR is, if you will.
Well, thanks, Dana. Really appreciate it. For those that weren't here last time, or a quick reminder, a CCR is only 4 pages. You cannot have a page 5. And that really helps us with the framing and discussion of the CCR itself. Page 1 is all about you. It's your framework. It's community snapshot of who your chapter is, what your goals are, your vision and mission space. Page 2 is what did you do this year? If you think about from the last conversation, this is not a strategic plan. This is an annual operating report. It's a member-centric report telling you the story of what we did this past particular cycle. And that page 2 is really that highlight on the key activities and services you did as a chapter. Page 3 is what did it cost? It takes money to do things. We know that. It takes investment. You have membership coming in, and you do things with those dollars brought in. It's an investment to the stewardship you have of your chapter and where you're going. And page 4 is really that what's next, challenges on the horizon, where you're looking to go forward. If you think about the cadence of a CCR, actions for page 4 become the accomplishments of page 2, that following operating year. So that's the anatomy of a great CCR. And if you're, as we're getting ready for lead and thinking about it, really being able to tell your story of page 2, what you did, and page 4, where you're going, is really going to be the focus. We can then talk about how to make that visually appealing, easy for people to enter in. But at the end of the day, you need to have that good data of what you are doing with your CCR. So that's that framing of the 4 pages. This next piece is really kind of taking our next step going forward as Dana advances the slide for me. There it is, as to why they actually matter. And we want to spend a few minutes on this, and I'm going to be a little bit aggressive because there's only about 60 of us on the call, so I feel like I can reach out a bit here to some people who are paying attention. But I know we got some friends from Denver, Colorado out there. So if you happen to want to jump into here at all, Kim McGatlin, you're more than welcome. But when I think about Denver, I think about the story around Denver. I think about what Denver was able to accomplish this past year by having an event in person, by having the opportunity to bring people together, thinking about their CEC. You've got different universities that you're reaching out to in the Denver area. So that who the CCR is for is that storytelling for your immediate area. I just saw in the chat someone from Philadelphia. Super excited you're on today because I have a project that you don't know about that we're going to be doing together in August. So ping me afterwards. I'll tell you more about it. Super exciting and repeatable for other chapters. And that's that other piece of this why it matters. We want chapters to borrow from other chapters the good ideas and accomplishments that is working in your area. So by having your story being told, you're not just helping your community, those other universities around you or those other entities around you, but you're creating a template and a roadmap for other chapters to see what you are doing. This creates a credibility opportunity to say, we're here, we exist, here's the outcomes we're seeking, or the space we're creating for conversations to occur. When we think about the need for finances, that page 3, there's a reason page 2 and page 3 open up and sit side by side. You want to make it easy for those that you're looking to do sponsorships with to see the outcome of those dollars spent. This is why we're bringing your dollars in. This is the result of what's happening with those elements in there. And that last little beat of the story to your prospective members, that transparency aspect of it, the end of the day, a member-centric report is an invitation to future members to come in and be part of your journey and your chapter. A secret sauce for AGA has always been our community, the family we create, that network of people that are working together and having conversations. This is your opportunity to say, here's what we're doing to advance that connective tissue that AGA creates. And so by really thinking about the way this story is told through your citizen-centric report, you're reinforcing the value to those that are members. You're inviting sponsors to be part of it, and you're creating a calling card for prospective members to come in and join you at the table, join you into the conversation. So we really want to make sure that this annual report is telling your story of your community and your impact. So that seems like a lot. So let's just go take one more step at this to sort of frame it. And this next slide is all about some of those things that feel overwhelming when we're trying to tell our story. We sometimes feel like it has to be perfect. Please do not let the perfect get in the way of the done. Make sure that you're thinking about this as part of your journey. You are telling your story of what you've done. The authenticity, the being authentic in here and creating authenticity is all about showing what you tried to do and knowing that no one does everything they say they're going to do on page 4 the next year. That's part of the value of the CCR. You had a plan, and then reality happened, and here's how you adjusted and moved and did things differently than you thought you would be. But having that plan is critically important because it shows you know where you're headed. You have a vision for where you want to go. Some people feel like it has to be professionally designed. If you've not played with Copilot or AI or anything like that, welcome to the club. Come on in here. It's amazing what it can do. My kids' house hockey team had their logo designed in two clicks, and all of a sudden the Ice Pirates were out there into the world. So like we know we can lean into this professional, this design, this value space, but it has to be based on real data and your particular story. It's also not the only time you have to tell your story. This is a 1 year snapshot in 4 pages. So more information is not always better. You are not going to be able to tell the story of everything, every nuance, every action you did as your chapter this year in 4 pages. And in fact, you wouldn't want to try and do that. This is your highlights. This is your example. This is what you want people to see about in that space. And so you're not trying to document every little bit of that. Remember, I'm from the Government Accountability Office. I still believe I'm here to help, but not everything we do in an audit has to go on that front highlights page. And so this is your storytelling opportunity. And finally, You don't need to have design experience to do this. We are here to help hold your hand through here, think about just enough principles to be useful, and to iterate with you. One of the things we want to make sure is that you know if you don't know how to do something or you have a barrier or a question or you're not sure where to start, please reach out to us. Our entire national team is here. We're excited to work with you on here. We run cohorts all the time with people using different, whether it's Canva or a PDF or a Word document or a PowerPoint. We have seen it with you. I can assure you that you are not the only person who has asked us these questions after many times of doing this. So we want to be part of this because the better we tell our individual story, the better our collective story can shine. So that's really why we're leaning in so heavily here to tell that collective story, and we can help you through any of these myths. I'll be here in the background for the rest of the presentation, Dana, as I hand it back to you. But we want you to know you're not on an island here. We're here to help and work through that conversation with you.
Thank you very much, John. Couldn't have said it better myself. Um, all right, so to piggyback off of John a little bit there, I just want to talk about things again, kind of debunking common myths, right? Your chapter does not need a graphic designer. You do not need custom illustrations or expensive software or anything very fancy, right? Those are not things that we expect of you at all. What we are asking in terms of the CCR is really like John has been talking about is to tell your chapter's story, right? You have a clear story, a clear vision with that information in a nice organized format. So, and by format, again, I don't mean like design or anything like that. I just mean, and I'll show you an example on the next page. Maybe some meaningful visuals, right? Chapter photos are always a really great touch to our citizen-centric reports, as well as different types of graphs. They're definitely very welcome. They're easy to read. And then another thing is just a format that can be maintained, right? This is something that we want to do each year and update each year. So think about it like that, right? The format that you use next year, of course, you can tweak it and edit it and make it a little bit better over time. But the goal is really to not have to do a drastic overhaul each year. So from a design perspective, I just want to talk about color, right? More is not always better. In fact, sometimes less is more in this case, right? Recommendations for using color. Only use it when you need to draw attention. Not only, but for the most part, right? Pick and choose when you're using it and where you want to draw your attention. So for example, if I made this one a little bit bigger, the example on the left, the eye is drawn all over the place, right? There's so many different colors going on and there's just a lot of different things to be looking at. Whereas the example on the right, there's kind of a natural flow. It's just easier for the reader to kind of absorb there. So readable beats flashy, and simple layouts are always more effective for the most part, right? So something to keep in mind there. And again, your CCR is your time to showcase your chapter's story. So showcase the personality of your chapter, or maybe, for example, we have this one right here. This is the 88 County Sheriff's Office. Instead of using big graphs or things like that, right? They used a hat, a star, and a paw print to liven up their numbers here. So icons are definitely something that we welcome for you to be able to use. For more of a chapter side of an example, right here, the Guam chapters event photos were a great personal touch. So on this page, I believe this was page 2 for them, and they were talking about things that they have achieved this year. So to that, they added some chapter photos of events that they have completed this year, which I thought was really great for the reader to see. So just some things to keep in mind. Again, a few simple design principles. White space is okay. You do not need to fill every inch of your screen. Do not make that an expectation for yourself. Again, limit the number of fonts and colors. For fonts, we like to say, choose one, maybe two, and leave it at that. Same thing with colors as well. And when I send out the slideshow afterwards, you'll also see some very specific resources that you can use to kind of find a color scheme. So stay tuned for that. And then, of course, focus your attention on key information, right? What is it that you really want the reader to gather when they're going over your pages? What is it they want them to take away? And also make sure it feels like your chapter, right? Use chapter photos. Most importantly, highlight local impact. As John said, this is really a tool that you can use if you're ever going out to, go to local entities or partnerships or schools and looking for that. You can kind of hand this to them and say, here's all the really great impacts that our chapter has had in our community. And this is why we think that you should join us. All right, so tools that you can use to design a CCR. Now, I wish I could give a template, but every chapter it works a little bit differently, right? So what we encourage is for you to use the tool that you know. Here's a list of a few. We got Canva, Adobe Express, Word, PowerPoint, Google Docs. It is ultimately your choice, right? If you feel the most comfortable working in Word document, go for it. Make it a Word document. If you love Canva, use that. It's really up to the discretion of the people who are creating the CCR and what you think works best for you. So remember also, a lot of strong CCRs evolve gradually over time. Your first version does not need to be perfect, okay? If this is your first go around. All right, so finding inspiration. You've chosen a platform, now what? Um, Once you've chosen one, search different things like this, annual reports, different versions of annual reports, and you'll see a lot of different templates come up, okay? So think of it kind of like building with Legos, right? When you were younger, you might like the layout from one example, the colors from the other, the chart from somewhere else, right? You're taking a little piece from each of the templates and putting it together to make something of your own. So maybe when you're younger with Legos, right, you're putting the things together to make a new creation. Do not think of this as copying, right? You're simply gathering ideas and building something that works best for your chapter. Now, alternatively, what we've heard from some people is they're like, all right, I don't want to put together a bunch of different templates. It's actually a lot easier for me to just add various shapes on my page to make a design. That works too. Again, we want to really, really stress we're not looking to have any graphic design looking CCRs here. If you can do that, wonderful. If not, that's okay as well. We really just want you to get that information to the paper. All right, before I move on, I just want to pause for a second and see if we have any questions. All right. So today we're going to obviously have a breakout activity as we usually do. John, did you have something you wanted to add? Sorry. As we usually do. So what we're going to be focusing is how do you make it real? How can you turn the ideas that you have into a CCR that feels clear, manageable, realistic to create? So last webinar, we asked that you, or maybe the one before, I'm not sure. Either way, we asked for you to come prepared with one accomplishment that you have identified from this program year. Right? Maybe you look back at your page 4, maybe you just chose something that you did this program year that's really special and you want to share. We also asked you to come back with one challenge, goal, or priority that you can use for page 4. And this is why, or one of the reasons why. So in your breakout groups, you're going to bring up one of those things, right? Perhaps an accomplishment. And then you're going to discuss how could this be communicated visually or simply. Maybe what would make this easier for readers to understand? What ideas or examples could your chapter adapt? Any of these things are basically whichever question really goes with the topic that you brought. Okay, that matches well with that. All right, so You are going to have, we'll say, 15 minutes in this breakout room, and you are going to head to the breakout rooms as always on your own. So you are going to join. On the bottom of the screen, you'll see a breakout room icon, and then you're going to choose your area. If you do not know what area you're in, have no fear. I will pop it up on the screen shortly. Okay, there you go. So I'll start the breakout rooms. You're going to move yourself to the appropriate area. We have some area directors who will be here today to facilitate the conversation, as well as AGA staff. And then, of course, I'll provide you with a 5-minute warning, and we'll come back and share some key takeaways. Do we have any questions before we begin? All right. The breakout rooms are now open.
Hey Dana,
All
can you
right, so
move me over to breakout room 2? I never see the option.
okay, of course.
Thank you.
I'm not seeing the option either, and I usually see it.
Option either.
Yeah.
Same here.
I need to go to
Okay, I was like, no
Yeah.
one is moving. Which I apologize. It could totally be me. I would like to take this time right now to kind of talk to or ask for a volunteer from each of the groups to see if they could share something. So on the screen, I have, well, on the screen, I am about to have some prompts two different prompts that you can use. However, feel free to share with us something that's not on the screen that you think would be beneficial to hear from the group. So I'm going to start off. John, I see you. So I'm going to call on you first and see if you have any insights to share with the group here.
Well, I certainly yield to the group members if they want to jump in there, but a couple of things that I think we definitely heard were similar challenges. Recruiting new CEC members, that succession planning definitely came up. And so just even telling the story about who is on the CEC can be a nice little call out to let people know, hey, we appreciate you, and this is who's part of the journey already. And then just even reaching out to universities was another aspect of conversation. It takes some time to do that, and we'll certainly be talking about tools you can use to engage universities, in particular with BAP and others at Lead. So some really good ideas there. I know, Anthon, you were talking about something when we got jumped in as well. So anything else you want to add or others?
No, but thank you.
Okay, no problem. Dana, I see Anne's hand up, so I don't know if that was intentional or if you want to tag Ann in.
I was just gonna tag Ann in.
Hi. I was the only one in the group that was going to be working on a CCR, so they kindly let me share my screen, and I was able to present our current CCR for suggestions. So I was very appreciative of that. I just wanted to make that note. I didn't get to say it before we jumped off, and just kind of helped me look at the coloring scheme that they liked. They liked the backgrounds and suggesting moving it, onto the fourth page, and that we talked about, where we could find some pictures to add to it. But I was getting good feedback from those that were in the committee with me, or the breakout room with me.
Awesome, Ann. Thank you so much. Oh, sorry. Did you have more?
No, I just saw Paul pop up. I didn't know if he wanted to say something.
I will go to Paul next. I was going to say thank you, Anne, for sharing. I'm glad that you were able to get some good feedback, and I just wanted to put it on everyone's radar to be on the lookout. We are going to be having different open sessions, I guess is what I'll call it right now, to be able to give you guys feedback on your CCRs this year. So, something to look forward to. But I will now turn it over to Paul.
Well, I think that Anne covered it pretty much. So we did make good use of the time, even though we discovered that, I mean, for most of the people in the breakout room, they weren't going to have to do a CCR. So I don't think there was a lot of, you know, it was hard for them to participate. We did note the fact that because of chapter size, the challenges of having members at this point in time, sometimes, as in Anne's case, there's only one person who's doing the CCR. But even if that's the case, the CCR should be reviewed by the chapter executive committee, and they should provide input and suggestions. It's not something that anyone should do solo or on their own, right? And so even though it might just be one person who's charged with writing it up, it really needs to be a group effort of the chapter executive committee, because they're the ones who either were responsible for some of the results of this year or who are setting direction for next year.
Paul, I think that's a great foot stomp moment there. You know, this is your collective chapter's story. And if you don't see yourself in that story, you should talk to the people who are doing it and say, hey, let's make sure we're telling our story. It is our collective story that we're in there. So Paul, agree 100%. You know, everybody should be looking at it and using it. And it's your calling card. It's what you're going to leave behind, carry with you, make sure it is something that makes sense. So thanks for shouting that out.
Yeah, and one thing I might add is you may have to, it might be a bit of a calf roping exercise, and that you might have to chase after those chapter executive committee members and ask them forcefully for their input.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul, for sharing. I agree. Definitely should be a group effort, so that everyone on the CEC knows what you're sending out there, and agrees on the content that you're putting in. Awesome. All right, we had one. Oh, actually, sorry, we did not one. I'm gonna pass it over to Karen Barker, to see if you could share your insight from your breakout room.
Good afternoon. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I'm on my phone, and I'm telling you, I'm having a time figuring everything out. But I would like to say our breakout session consisted of most of us being in the same situation as Paul was speaking, where we have either are not engaged with the CCR process, have not done it in historically, but we are eager to learn more about it, to go back to our chapters and see how it's done, and get in there and be a positive force for our chapters. But yes, at this time, most of us are in the same position as Paul found out that his participants were, that we're not directly, yeah, engaged in that process. But now that I know about it, and I'm sure my the cohort in area 5 and 6 who are not engaged in it at this time will go back and do the same. Everyone seemed eager to learn more about it. And Meredith did go over some, and Danielle did go over a completed CCR, and that was very informative. So we appreciate that learning opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Karen. I think it's really important to share that some people are right new to this, and this is a learning process. So we're happy to see that you're jumping right in and willing to share the information that you've learned here today. And I'm happy to hear that the examples were very helpful to you. So shout out again to Danielle and the Greater Richmond chapter for sharing with that group. I will also share, and I put it in the chat, some examples of chapter CCRs throughout the year. So those will be available for you to look at as well if you'd like. And I'll also link that in my follow-up email to you guys. All right, and then we had one last group. And Teresa, I don't know if you had something that you wanted to share about your breakout group. Or maybe Sharita. I can share for them. I know that one thing that we had talked about in that group, kind of similarly to John's group, was a challenge that this year has been a lack of membership engagement, whether that be in person events or finding chapter leadership, etc. So that was something that we discussed as a challenge. And I'm not sure if Teresa's here. I would love for you to talk about what you did to engage some of our younger members. Let's see. Oh, that's okay, Teresa. Excuse me. So Teresa's works at the or is a part of the Jackson chapter. So they have held different events to kind of cater to their younger members and have people be able to come in, ask questions. And I'm sorry, I came in at the tail end of that conversation, so I don't know if Shrita or anyone would like to fill in blanks here, but I did hear that they were, holding special sessions specifically to those younger folks, which I thought was a really great idea. Shrita, I'm not sure if you're
Yes.
able to. Yeah,
Yes,
thank
Dana.
you.
Yeah, she said it was she called it a young people's social. And she said that they met at a restaurant and they went over, discussed, of course, AGA and scholarship opportunities, job opportunities, and things like that with the young people. So, good idea.
Awesome. Thank
They
you,
had
Shrita.
snacks.
Appreciate it.
Yes, no problem.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Okie dokie. So if you guys have any questions, of course, about the CCRs, please feel free to let us know. At AGA, we are happy to help. We are here to support. That is our literal job. So please reach out to us and ask. It is not a bother by any means. I do see Meredith's hands raised, so I'm going to give her a second to speak.
Hi, we had a good question in our breakout room of what if all of your events are virtual and you don't have photos from those in-person events? My first response was, please schedule a time with Dana and or myself and John. We would love to help you get something in person started. If an educational event in person is too much to coordinate at this time, let's talk about how we can put together a community service event. You can call up the food bank.
I'll step in for Meredith. I said we've seen examples with different volunteer opportunities, food banks, and others that are really a great way for people to get out and work together. And so happy to share some of those lists and opportunities as they exist.
Thank you very much, John. My apologies, my screen went all funky on me. I think Meredith got kicked out, but thank you. I also see a question in the chat about the chapter logos. You are correct. They are. It's not that you can't find them in chapter resources. They are not there. To be transparent with you, they are. We are working still on getting that section of the new website up and running because it has so many different pieces on that specific page. So if you do not have your chapter's logo and you need it, please email me and I can get that to you. It might be in like your chapter's Google Drive or something like that. So maybe a good starting place to check. And then I see that you do have a question about motivating members to participate. And I will not forget about that. That is something that we are going to talk about at a future spot, Tatiana. That is definitely going to be implemented. So stay tuned. Unfortunately, we don't have time today, but we will get to that point because I think a lot of people have the same question. All right, great questions, of course. So before our next session, again, same homework as always. Take 5 minutes, maybe less. Submit one new question or challenge for us to discuss, whether that be in these webinars, at LEAD, or to support you throughout the program year. And then this is our last webinar specifically on citizen-centric reports. So I do want to give you a friendly reminder that we're asking you to bring that data for or information for page 2 and for to LEAD. So make sure you're gathering that information if you don't already have it gathered and storing it in a safe spot. And of course, I'll remind you before LEAD as well. And then our next session is going to be focused on the Achievements in Chapter Excellence program, also known as the ACE program. So that'll be on June 9th, same time, same link. I'll send you the link right before, like I always do. But if you guys have any questions, you know where to find me. And that is all I have for you today. So thank you all so much for joining, for participating, for everything you do for AGA. And I will see you in 2 weeks.
Awesome. And Dana, if you could leave it on, Andy from is going to send on for a second to talk about Philadelphia. If you could hang on with me, that'd be amazing.
All right. Thank you all.